Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. What you're about to see is a clip from our most recent podcast episode. If you like what you hear, you can go listen to the full episode down at the link in our description. And if you like what you watch, please leave a like and consider leaving a subscribe. We very much appreciate all the support, but without further ado, let's get to what you clicked for. Just to hop right into it. What do you guys think of the JJ Watt signing, both on his side, on the Cardinals side? Will it make them contenders? Just all the questions surrounding that signing from last week. Shrikar, since you're now back on, I want you to start. What do you think of the JJ Watt signing?
Well, to answer your question, if the Cardinals are contenders, they could be, but I think they're still in this spot where you got to prove it first. Because let's think back to midseason. Remember that contenders versus pretenders video we did? I labeled them pretenders. I said that Kyler Murray, this team was still in a phase where you got to prove that you're actual contenders. You still need to win another big game. And look, I'm not saying that the Watt signing was a bad move. Like, this is going to make Arizona a much better team because you're getting back Chandler Jones. You've already got Watt, Jones, Budda Baker, Isaiah Simmons on that defense if he develops properly. And then he got on offense, Murray, Hopkins. We knew that offense was dangerous already. But, having said that, team, it looked like a playoff team for probably the first 2/3 of the season. But then, of course, down the stretch, they faltered and they missed the postseason. And I think in that stretch, they proved that they are a young team. They got a young quarterback, young head coach. They got enough holes that, every single game we saw something different from Arizona in terms of performance. So I think JJ's definitely going to help with some of that. He offers that defensive line help they needed. In my mock draft, I think it was Azeez Ojulari to Arizona. And now I think you can go for O-line, maybe a corner with Patrick Peterson leaving. And I think he's a good veteran presence. And this is a young roster again. So having that veteran presence on the D-line is great. But still, you're in a loaded division. The NFC West is still arguably the best division in the NFL. They're right up there with the AFC North because the Niners are getting healthy. The Rams just got Matthew Stafford. The Hawks, they still have Russell Wilson. I mean, for now, at least. So that's just going to make it a big uphill climb for Arizona. So to say that they'll be in the Super Bowl, it's a stretch for me. But one thing's for sure is that JJ Watt, it gets them much closer to that level than they were previously. So I like the move. It may be a little bit too much money for JJ Watt, but I think it had to be done. But in terms of contending, I don't think the Cardinals are contenders quite yet.
So as a Browns fan reacting to it, I hear the news. It was so random. I just got it. I think Jack said Rappaport might have tweeted. I don't know. Someone told me that. And I was like, what the hell? Like, Arizona, nothing. There was no links. I saw no links to Arizona, despite all the, there was like, oh, his bike account, or something like that was linked to different locations. I mean, there was everything you could think of. And I had never heard Arizona once mentioned. And then obviously JJ Watt goes to Instagram and Twitter, says source me. So obviously a lot of contenders, or at least playoff contenders last year, pretty bummed. Buffalo, Green Bay, Cleveland, Pittsburgh even. I mean, they all missed out. But for Arizona, I think the initial reaction to think of is, why did he choose Arizona? Why? What was there? And obviously he said, okay, I believe in Kyler Murray. I believe in what they have going on. And, I wasn't, like, to kind of quote what Shrikar said, to go even further back, I said that this team was a year away coming in. But I did say a lot of parallels were to the 2019 Browns, except I thought they would do a little bit better because I thought Kingsbury was better than Freddie Kitchens, and I thought Kyler Murray had more potential than Baker after seeing what Baker did in 2019. And I had them going 8-8, and that's what they were. And I think they're going to get better. Like I said, they were a year away in early 2020, and I think this is the year where they can take a bigger jump. But to say they're Super Bowl contenders, now, Shrikar, that doesn't mean they have to make the Super Bowl, but to say they're even in that bubble, I don't think so yet.
Yep,
I need to see it first. And I think Kingsbury, he messed up last year because, they were surpassing my expectations. And then, like I said, right, like Shrikar said too, when the game starts to slow down, can you win those big games down the stretch? I mean, week 16 at home against San Francisco, I mean, you choked that game. Week 17 against LA, I know you didn't have Kyler for most of the game, but just those games down the stretch that you really choked and couldn't make the playoffs and couldn't do really anything, even though you had some big wins early in the year, especially that one against Seattle in overtime. So I think with the Cardinals, the question is, how much better did they get? And JJ Watt obviously is still a great pass rusher. I think he's very elite. He's only 2 years removed from a 16 sack season. And it was for first team All-Pro. I think he had 7 forced fumbles that year too. But here's the thing. I think Shannon Sharp put it best when he said that J.J. Watt he shouldn't be asked to play 60 snaps a game or, whatever number, 100% of the snaps. If he can play at an elite level for about maybe 30, 40, you don't have to get him on the field 100% of the time. And I think to be opposite Chandler Jones, who's also coming back from a season-ending injury that he suffered early in the year, these are two guys that are still, they're veterans and they're trying to basically get their feet wet, probably the first 2 weeks of the year. So, but when they do come alive, no matter how old they are, I think it is going to be a very good duo. And obviously, we're seeing it. You want to win the lines of scrimmage in the NFL. Now, the Cardinals need to work on the offensive line, but at least this gives them help on the defensive side. And I think Kingsbury is holding them back. But, this signing shows that, hey, the Cardinals are trying to, they're starting to throw themselves a championship window, or at least have one presentable. So, there's some teams that are fading out of it. There's some teams that are coming into it. And I believe the Cardinals are one of those teams. Now, like you said, Shrikar, the NFC West is pretty loaded. But can they compete with the Niners team? 100%. Can they compete with the Hawks team? 100%. And can they compete with LA? I think so. Now, obviously, I'm a little bit biased to the Rams. I think they just have a lot better going. I also really like Sean McVay versus Kingsbury. But again, this team is putting themselves out there, and I think J.J. Watt was the first step. Now, Jack can get into more details of what this kind of means, but obviously the contract was 2 years, $31 million. So they really put it out there. They really said, okay, we're investing in you. So this is a 2-year investment, and I think they will make the playoffs next year. I think, who wouldn't? I mean, a 17 playoff. I think it's going to be a 17-game season next year. So, maybe 10-7. Right. Yeah. 10-7 probably I could expect, but it's going to be really interesting to see, but I think this definitely was a great move that, who wouldn't love to get a really good leader in the locker room and a really great defensive presence, but does this really elevate them to where, people are throwing them out? No, I think they're playoff contender, right? Maybe a wild card team. I don't see them winning the division next year, but can they prove, can Kyler Murray take that elite jump again? And take this team further? He could, but I think in regards to JJ Watt, great signing, only makes them better, but it just doesn't get them to that Super Bowl contender title.
Yeah, obviously you guys focused on what this means for the Cardinals, but I want to kind of go back to what this means for JJ Watt. All the reports where he wanted to play for a Super Bowl contending team, like it's almost a Super Bowl favorite. I don't know why he picked Arizona then. I really don't see Arizona winning a Super Bowl in his 2 years. Like I will go on the record and say right now, they won't win a Super Bowl this year or the next year. Like I don't believe it.
Jinxed him, man.
You jinxed it.
You know what? Cardinals fans better be happy then, but I just don't see it. And personally, I don't really know what to expect from Kyler Murray right now. Like I think he could end up being one of those quarterbacks that's great, but just like doesn't get it done. I just don't, for some reason, I can't really tell you it. I just don't see him winning big games, like winning playoff games and winning the Super Bowl. I just don't see it.
Just quick. So you don't think Kyler Murray can win your team a Super Bowl?
I think he can. Just don't think he will. Like I don't know what it is. It's just that's what I'm seeing, and I can't really explain it, but that's what I'm seeing. And even then, even if he ends up proving me wrong and does it, I don't think it'll be in these 2 years. Like, I don't think it'll be when J.J. Watt is on the Cardinals on this contract, which is why I was just really confused why he picked them in free agency. Like, he could have gone to the Packers. He could have gone to the Browns, like the Bills. Those are all much safer options for if you want to go to a Super Bowl favorite or a Super Bowl contender. And, I don't think it was a money decision because I just feel like, J.J. Watt doesn't need to make a money decision. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, why he picked Arizona if he wanted to win a Super Bowl. It was obvious the other teams were offering. The Browns offered, I'm sure the same amount of money, if not even more.
It was a little bit more actually.
And
yeah,
so
they offered more.
You know what? I just don't know really what he's seeing in Arizona. And I personally just don't see them winning a Super Bowl in this year or the year after that. Anisha, I was with you last year where I said they were 1 year away from making the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, then it's like a whole different thing. Then you're a year away from winning a playoff game. And then you're a year away from getting to, the championship game or the Super Bowl. And then if it all works out, you're a year away from winning the Super Bowl. Like, this team is good. Like, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great pieces on it, but it's not a Super Bowl team. I mean, look at the last 2 Super Bowl winners. They had those big pieces, but they also had very solid options at, all the other positions. And I just don't think the Cardinals have that. Yes, they have, Kyler on offense with DeAndre Hopkins and then all the star pieces on defense, but they don't have those guys to fill in the cracks like the Bucs did or the Chiefs did these last 2 years. They don't have a great offensive line whatsoever. DJ Humphries is pretty good, but other than that, I mean, you maybe hope Josh Jones can become another tackle, but he doesn't have a whole ton of potential. He was just kind of a safer option. The interior line isn't great. You don't have a tight end. And on defense, other than Chandler Jones and JJ Watt on that D line, there's no one that stands out. We hope Isaiah Simmons or I guess Hassan Reddick rushing, but we don't even know if he's going to be back. At corner, Byron Murphy's really their only guy there. Budda Baker at safety. We don't know about Isaiah Simmons yet. Like, he could be a star, but he could be a big bust. Like, I just don't think they're very well rounded. I don't think they're like solid enough at the other levels. When it's peak versus peak, they match up with everyone else. But when it's just kind of like the solid levels, like just the other levels, I just don't think they compare to a lot of the other teams in the league that are vying for that Super Bowl spot that JJ Watt could have chosen. So obviously it's a great signing.
I will say one thing though.
Yeah.
To favor the Cardinals here, there are teams that make that jump and surpass what you're saying. So what you're saying is kind of the steady up incline. Okay, win a playoff game, maybe go on a deep playoff run, and then win the Super Bowl. Usually that doesn't really happen. I haven't seen that in the last few years. Usually teams make a big jump and ascend and put themselves in that Super Bowl bubble.
The Niners did in 1 year.
Because they signed a D tackle? Because they signed like a 3-4 end?
No, but that's what I'm saying. JJ Watt probably thought to himself, Arizona has the potential to make that jump. I'm saying that. You asked why he chose Arizona. Personally, I think Cleveland was a better option, but he's thinking to himself. Remember, people asked him and he said, I believe in Kyler Murray. So what I'm saying is I think he sees maybe a San Francisco type jump, or for example, the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes in 1 year moved up like 2 levels. I mean, there are things like this, right? Baltimore. I mean, we've seen it. Buffalo.
But JJ Watt's not a quarterback.
No, he isn't. But he believes in this. No, I'm saying, you're asking me, why did he choose Arizona?
Yeah.
Why not Cleveland? Why not Buffalo? I'm saying he thinks that they can make that type of jump.
He's banking on potential. And if I was him, I'd also go with the Browns.
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm trying to give you an answer as to why he chose it.
Yeah. No,
that's the only answer. Mm-hmm.
I understand that. Personally, I do not believe that Arizona will win a Super Bowl with JJ Watt. And so then I just think there were better options. Maybe you understand that he believes in them, but I mean, you don't believe in Buffalo. You don't believe in Josh Allen getting further in the playoffs, or you don't believe in.
But what I'm saying, 2 years ago in 2019, would you have thought the Bills could have made the Super Bowl? No, you wouldn't.
No, but here's the thing.
It was that jump.
Yes, but that was Josh Allen's jump from last year to this year was just about as big a jump as you could have. Kyler Murray doesn't have that much farther to jump. Like, I don't see him jumping to like how
I would say he's got, so I mean, I would say he had that jump first half of the year. Like, he increased his total touchdowns by 40%. Like that's a lot. I mean, was that going to win them Super Bowl? Like, even then they didn't look like a Super Bowl team, and that was Kyler Murray performing at almost full capacity most likely. Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't see
the Cardinals. No, the Cardinals just still aren't a complete team yet.
Yeah,
they still got holes.
I agree with that, but I think it comes. You're right. It does come down to Kyler Murray, but can they make so you don't see them at all making a type of jump that, I'm not going to compare them to Buffalo, because I think Buffalo had, Josh Allen always has he had something that I saw. I don't see it in Kyler Murray that I did in Josh Allen. He didn't have, the winners intangibles that I saw in Allen. Other guys too, like Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray's not going to be a Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. But I think what JJ Watt is seeing something that we're not. And I'm very I feel like over time we'll start to see it.
Yeah.
But what, like you said, Jack, I'm also curious too, why did he choose a team that, it kind of flew under the radar towards the end of the year, right? Not many people were talking about him. Usually a team on the brighter spot, like if the Cowboys went 8-6 and lost 2 games to miss the playoffs, that would have been that literally happened 2 years ago. And that was on every news network. I mean, it was everywhere. If this, this isn't a big market team. So, I'm still curious, what is he seeing? And I feel like the time will tell. Maybe he had a meeting with Kingsbury. I mean, maybe he had someone, maybe DeAndre Hopkins gave him some type of, maybe they met up, or he called him and said, hey, this is what's going on. We have something that, most teams don't. So there's something behind the scenes that we're not looking at. And I feel like the NFL world will find that out in a few months.
Unless they're wrong. I mean, like just like we make takes that are, most often 50% right and 50% wrong. DeAndre Hopkins, like he might not be right about what's going on in Arizona too. Like, you know what, it's really tough to see, and I hope we do find out. I like the Cardinals, and if I had to pick a team to kind of root for in the NFC West, they'd be up there. But you know what? I just don't see them coming out of that division like for the next 2 years. Like I think they can make the playoffs, but just getting beaten down in that division with their team that's still young and that still has a lot of holes to fill. I just don't see them getting through the entire playoffs and winning a Super Bowl in these next 2 years. But anyways, I think it's a great signing for the Cardinals, at least to push them there. Like it's smart for them. I hope JJ Watt made the right decision with them.